Okay, well, I'm not gonna lie, like when I saw them in the morning, I wasn't really surprised by them, which is a bit sad, but only because I feel like bashing black women online is not something that's like completely unheard of. I feel like it's kind of, I don't want to say normalized, but like it happens. So like as a black girl, you wouldn't really be surprised. I think I was kind of shocked to see who the tweets were coming from. Like I didn't see the ones about rape and like dark skinned women. Like I only saw the ones by like Nella and Josiah, like Chunks, all of those kind of people. Yeah, so I saw the one by like Nella Rose and like Ilya Maria B, and I was kind of shocked because like obviously these are like black dark skinned women. I was a bit annoyed because I feel like Nella Rose especially is like a role model for a lot of black girls. Like she's kind of like, you know, that be like as a YouTube channel, like Pretty Little Thing, like she's kind of got herself together. So I think a lot of black girls do see her as an inspiration. So I think it was a bit shocking to see that she had kind of like, I don't want to say added to the black, like the bashing of black women, but had been like a part of it at some point. The tweet like where it was saying that like raping black girls isn't rape, it's like animal cruelty or something. Like I was really shocked by that one. I didn't really think someone would say something to that extent. Like I don't know who the influencer was that said it, but that was a bit mad. Well, I feel like obviously me and Nella was like different times. So when she was on like Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, like bashing black women was kind of a thing or like a trend back then. So you know, in like the same way that she experienced it as in like on social media as well. But yeah, sometimes like I've never like hated my skin tone or anything, but sometimes you do think negative things about it because people say negative things about it, and like even if there aren't necessarily negative things said about it, there's like negative connotations and stuff. Like I wouldn't want to be called Blick, for example, but that shouldn't be a bad term because you're just saying someone's dark, but you've grown to think that's a bad thing, if that makes sense. I think a lot of the time it's not even necessarily consciously that people say things, but they give off like subconscious messages. Like someone's describing their type, for example, and it's like light skin, curly hair. Like you're not gonna necessarily be like, oh my gosh, I wish I was their type. It's like you're not even really acknowledged, so you might tend to feel like a sort of way. I think there's also like a lot of comparison in terms of like different features that we have. So like, I don't know, like hair type and I don't know, like certain characteristics, for example. Like I think dark skinned women normally come off as like more aggressive and things like that, and that's just attached to your skin tone like by default. I think me, who has a light skinned best friend, like normally we're compared. It might not even be like intentionally people are saying, oh, this because of that and this because of that, but you start attaching like different features to your skin tone because that's what people do. But yeah, I feel like I slightly touched on this, but with the preference thing as well, a lot of the time that you might have to think, oh, like, am I someone's type, or is this person going to find me attractive, for example, whereas other people not actually have to like deep that kind of thing. Like, obviously I'm not generalizing, but I feel like some black men kind of say, oh yeah, like we're here for like our dark skinned sisters, like all of this blah blah blah, but it's like, do you actually like practice what you preach? Like if for example like you hear like a small like throwaway comment about someone being dark and how that's a negative thing, like would you pick up on that, or would you kind of just laugh and shrug the conversation off? I think a lot of that love for like dark skinned women or like black women in particular is like, it's a lot online. Like what would you actually do in real life if you're kind of faced with these problems? So yeah, I think people kind of always try and ignore the issue because I think, right, so with racism, for example, like that's a black versus white kind of thing. Like people will see that as like, okay, that's an outsider, like that's an issue from someone outside our community, like we can fight that. But I feel like with something like colourism or like just issues with black women in general, people don't want to talk about it because it makes people feel uncomfortable that some kind of like injustice is happening within our community. I think whenever black women kind of bring it up, like we're kind of seen as like trying to be victims or like causing problems and all of that, when it's like we just have an issue that wants to be concerned. I think obviously I can't speak for all dark skinned women, but if a guy was like, oh, my type is like this, that, whatever, like I wouldn't really care as long as he's not disrespecting black women in the process. And I think some people fail to do that, which is why black women will be annoyed. I'm really waffling, but this topic really gets on my nerves, so yeah, I'll try and bring up the second question to a close. I've never not wanted to be black or not wanted to be dark skinned, but I think there are a lot of things that come with being a dark skinned woman that are annoying and like everyone kind of faces, because I feel like if you're talking about preference or I don't know, like being called a certain name, I feel like any dark skinned woman has a story that they could probably tell, and like it could be something really small, but they would think about it. And I feel like we also forget that like two different things like intersect. So like being a woman and being a dark skinned woman and being a black woman, like they're all very different things, but when they come together it's like even worse. But yeah, probably have thought negative things about myself, but yeah. And also I swear this will be the last thing I say about question G. I feel like it's like a generational thing, and it's just a cycle. Like it goes on and on and on, because it kind of started with older generations and it's being passed on, and I don't really think it's the kind of issue that's just gonna go away on its own. I have a little sister, obviously, Blooms, and she's darker than me, and sometimes she's thought negative things about herself and not thought that she's beautiful because she's darker, kind of thing. And I think those are the kind of issues that you have to like confront from young, otherwise they kind of slowly like become part of a mindset, which is why they could turn out as like self-internalized hate, like how it came out in Nella Rose's tweet. Question 3, the consequences. I think definitely like accountability and realising what you said and why it's wrong. So like with Nella Rose, for example, like she made the whole video and explained why she thought those things about herself and why she made the tweets, and we all understood it a bit more, like saying it's right or anything, but because you could see where she came from, you felt a bit more like, okay, I can understand why she said it, like it's wrong, but you can see what's motivated her to do it rather than just like saying rude things for no reason. And like she said in her apology video, like she hated black women because she hated herself. And I think that was quite important. Like even though you can have like colorism and racism from like other people, like the effect it can have on yourself is so big in terms of like your self-esteem, like your self-image, like how you're going to view yourself is going to be important. So like obviously Nella was quite drastic because of the tweets that she made, but that's the kind of impact that hearing things from other people can like make you have. I don't really know, because I feel like in the past I was like a cancel person. Like if someone had said a certain thing and I didn't agree with it, or I felt like it was racist or whatever, like I would cancel that person. But I think even though people do make stupid mistakes and stuff, like you kind of have to realise people can change and they don't hold the same opinion, so you can't really just judge them for something that they said like ages ago. I'm sure we've all said stupid stuff at one point, and like even if it's not necessarily deep to us, like someone might have been offended by it, but because people are in the public eye, it might come across a bit different. But yeah, I think it's really important when something like this happens to know what motivated someone to say a certain type of thing. And I think with freedom of speech, like there's a line between saying what your opinion is and like voicing it and like hurting people at the same time. Like you can have a freedom of speech without being racist or sexist or homophobic. I think sometimes people just say certain things and they're like, oh, like I should be able to say it because of this, that, whatever. But it's like you're hurting a group of people in the process of doing that. I think a lot of time when black women kind of voice these opinions, that's what we're called like sensitive and bitter and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't necessarily know what the consequences would be. I feel like people can still watch her videos and stuff like that, but it's not going to be the same as it was essentially. But yeah, I think talking about these things is really important and we shouldn't just like neglect them. But yeah, that was a lot of talking. I just want to say one more thing. I feel like another thing with like the tweets and stuff like that, people seem to be like concentrating on the ones from like Nella Rose and like other female influencers, but we haven't really heard people say much about like, I don't know, like Tion Wayne's ones and Heady One, for example. And it's like, is it just because Nella's like a bigger influencer, or is it just because they're men? Like it's that kind of argument. I think when black women make mistakes or like whatever and they're in the public eye, like are they kind of drawn out more because they're women, or is it because of popularity? So yeah.